Hey, Brandon.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, brother?
Good, good. How are
Awesome
you?
to have you here.
Yes, me too. Been waiting all day.
So let me do a couple of housekeeping things here. I want to make Hannah the co-host. That way she can bring on guests that have questions. And then in the chat, guys, Elise is going to be answering some questions too
Perfect.
that are DealMachine related, by the way.
Okay.
Then I thought the format for tonight, we do this every other week. Hello, everyone. See you guys in the chat. We actually just basically kind of have you tell your background and your story. And then what we do is we open it up for a live Q&A. So once people have that context, they're going to have questions about wholesaling.
Perfect.
Does that work for you?
Yep. I'll just give a brief intro, bio, background, how I got started, and where DealMachine played and all that, and open it up for Q&A.
Right. So you've grown to over $1 million a year.
Yes.
That is not an easy thing to do.
For
Did you do it all
sure.
by yourself, or did you have a team?
I did have a team. That was the catalyst for growth in year 3. So one-man band for year 1 and half of year 2. Put a team together year 3, the rest is history.
Awesome. Well, Phil, can you fill in a little bit more details? Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're from Atlanta, right?
Yes. So been from, raised here, went to school here, elementary, middle, high, but then I transitioned from Georgia State University to Purdue University. And with that, I went through the Great Recession. That was kind of that affected the students that were in my class, and so I had a lot of opportunities that kind of fell by the wayside. But luckily, with my operations background, I got a position with the H.J. Heinz Company in Pittsburgh. So I was in operations, supply chain, and did some rotational positions there in Pittsburgh, and then also in Illinois, Iowa. But the company got bought out twice. So the Warren Buffett came in and bought out Heinz. I found a job at Kraft, and then Heinz, Warren Buffett, 3G Capital bought out Kraft. And then I had an opportunity to come back here to Georgia to work with another company. And they also got bought out within a year of me being there. They got bought out by a larger company and laid off a lot of folks. And this was literally a week, 2 weeks after I had gotten married. So 10/10/15, October 10th, 2015, got married. 2 weeks later, actually found out that I was going to lose my job. And I started to look around for other corporate jobs. I always thought that I would just climb the corporate ladder. And I reached out to a friend that I met in Pittsburgh. While I was up there, he went to the University of Pittsburgh, and he always talked about real estate. He always talked about these rentals he had in Pittsburgh. He talked about, how he was going to take over the world and do all these things. And so I just reached out. I reached out because I had time on my hands. I didn't have a job, recently married, and 1 kid. My oldest is now 7. And that opportunity to have a conversation with him, he talked about wholesaling. He talked about this mentor that he had joined, the mentor tribe of Wholesaling Inc. Come over, listen to this guy, listen to his mentor. He's really infectious. He's really, great with everything that he does. So I came over and I listened to some of the coaching calls, and we just started driving for dollars. That was it. Like when you get started in this business, it's, you drive for dollars. I think that's one of the best ways, honestly, to get going, because you understand your area, you understand the lay of the land, and then you also are generating your own lead list at a cheap price very early on. And this is back when we were doing it hand, pen and paper, just, taking notes and leaving notes on doors, everything. That's kind of how I got going. That was literally January 2016. I started to do deals, a lot of driving for dollars, a lot of postcards, eventually probate letters, and then I transitioned to where I am now. So that was my start, 2016. Just by chance, reaching out to a buddy that I knew had been doing some real estate related activities, and he was like, "Yeah, man, let's go driving for dollars. Let's listen to Tom Kroll while we're in the car," and we developed from there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually picked up the wholesaling podcast pretty early myself as well.
Yeah. I think it's one of the better ones out there. So, very good information.
So now that you're actually not starting out anymore, you still drive for dollars? I know you mentioned a lot of newbies start that way.
Yeah, not too much personally. I am good about pinning a few properties as I see them. If I ever go to a walkthrough, if I'm ever in the neighborhood, especially my own neighborhood, I'll pin a property and allow my assistant to pull that out and add that to the list. But for the most part, our team members are the ones that are pinning properties. I have a dispositions manager that he's going and doing a lot of the walkthrough inspections. And when he knows once he gets out there and he's walking through a property, as soon as he's done, before and after, he's supposed to be driving the neighborhood, pinning properties, and we're able to consistently generate 200, 500 or so per week properties that way. That's kind of how we've developed. But even for me, that's not enough. Like we're about to hire somebody to full-time drive for dollars using the DealMachine app.
Oh, I love it. So Speaking of that hiring process, how's that going? Have you started yet, or is it just kind of in the back of your mind?
No, we haven't put the job ad out. I've spoken to a few people, like Zach Booth gave me some good insight on how he's set up a pay plan for that specifically. I have not started actually hiring an individual yet, but we have had people in the past. I want to really make it formal and make sure that whoever I have in there that is just going to consistently drive, because I think that's the key to it. If you're not consistently pinning properties, you're not going to actually see the results. And that's with any form of marketing, honestly. So
completely agree.
Yeah.
So by the way, have you seen my contract that I use to hire my driver and make sure that they have insurance and I'm protected from liability?
I've heard of it. I do not. I need that contract, man. Yes.
Okay, Hannah, can you post that in the chat, please?
That's perfect.
We'll get you hooked up. Absolutely. And it's always a good idea to have your attorney check it out, but it's going to save you a lot of money if you've got a template for him to check instead of him having to draft, his own thing. My attorney drafted that for me here in Indiana. So nice. He did it with the intention of being able to be used elsewhere too. But it's always a good idea just to have your own attorney, check it. And I'm saying that for everyone here on the call.
Very cool. Very cool.
So what is the – okay, somebody else wants the contract as well. What is
do you want me – so I definitely – I shared kind of from not understanding what wholesaling was to wholesaling. You want me to share that next piece from –
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to break it up, but it's a longer story, but it's everybody. It's amazing how most of the influencers, the bigger wholesalers, the people that have been in this business that are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in transactions, all have some story of how they got started that you wouldn't think that this would equate to the success that they've had. And mine was literally by chance. Like I knew zero. I did not read Think and Grow Rich. I actually remember my best friend, his dad gave him the book, and I was like, I don't need that. I'm gonna go get a job and work in corporate America. And so I had zero knowledge of real estate, specifically wholesaling, until I gotten fired. Right after, like the end of October, called my buddy in December 2015. And started to listen to some of the podcasts, some of the coaching calls, and started driving for dollars in January 2016. And so that year, because I had a mentor, because I found somebody that I could just follow exactly what They told me to do, instructions over education. I went from doing 0 deals to doing 100 and about 19K that very first year. That was a mix of direct mail and probate letters. And I was just mailing the driving for dollars at the time, or leaving handwritten notes on the door. And by the end of that year, I actually spoke to your last DealMachine guest, Brent Daniels. That was when he was just starting cold calling on a large scale. He started with wholesaling also in 2016. And he was sharing, he was a great go-giver. He was sharing everything that he knew about cold calling. And I started to bend his ear and learn how to cold call. So I started cold calling by myself. Early 2016. I remember doing a driving for dollars deal from the cold calls, 2 of them, the very beginning of 2017. And I was like, hey, this is my thing. I'm going to cold call. So I actually hired some cold callers by May 2017. And then we started to get a lot of cold calling leads en masse. I was playing the acquisition manager, wasn't great at it. Because I was in the business, not working. I was working on the business and in the business, and it was a challenge. But I finally fired myself at the end of 2017, got an acquisition manager. We did about 200K or so that year. And at next year, literally, I remember right after Thanksgiving, hiring an acquisition manager, and we started to generate contracts. And it hasn't stopped since then. We've still always, like I said, used the drive for dollars. I think I met you in 2017 in Orlando.
That's right. It was a wholesaling event. Yeah.
Yep. And so we were talking about that. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm driving for dollars. He told me about the app. Started to look into using that as well, and pinning the properties and exporting them at that time.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was once I kind of fired myself, got out of my own way. We did just shy of $1 million, like 950, but I did a few additional deals off on the side in 2018, and then last year we shattered through that mark. And the team right now looks at 4 cold callers, 1 acquisition manager, still disposition manager, a few virtual assistants. It's a pretty small teams, pretty small overhead. But we're really consistent about talking to people, sending offers, and that's how we're doing deals on a regular basis without my involvement, honestly.
Yeah. But it's actually awesome that you're following Brent Daniels, because you're applying what he teaches and obviously have been really successful with it.
For sure. 100%.
Love that once you made the decision to hire that acquisitions manager, that you haven't turned back, and it's actually helped you out so much too.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest, most important hire. You definitely have to have the lead generation. I think your very first hire should be a administrative assistant. So a VA that's actually a virtual assistant, not a lot of people say VAs and they're talking about their cold callers. I mean, an actual admin assistant that can help make sure that your KPIs are tracked, your marketing is going out, kind of managing your email inbox, etc. They keep your business feeling like a business instead of you running around putting out fires.
Right.
And so having a super strong VA for me was my very first hire. That very first year, she's been with me ever since. Like having that core, and then the acquisition manager with that, and then you really start to turn it on. You're doing deals, you're speaking to people. You're following up without your involvement, because one person in this business can't do it all. So if that is acquisitions is going on without you, you're able to continue to grow the business and develop the business further. So
absolutely.
Super important.
Well, it's awesome to have you with us, Brandon. Share your expertise. I know that everyone here is dying to get access to it, just like you did in your early days. And so I wanted to open up for questions. If you guys have questions, please start putting them in the chat. It could be an issue you're having right now that you need help getting unstuck. Lux Leonard is actually going to start us off. He says, what are some of the best niche lists that you buy for leads?
Yes. So my favorite list, it's always a 1-2 thing. I say probate and eviction. I think the easiest to get into in any market whatsoever without much know-how with the system, with the process, with everything that goes into it, the easiest list that you should definitely be taking advantage of is an eviction list. Because it's as simple as going down to the county and saying, hey, if I need to file an eviction, where would I go? And then you go there and say, hey, if I want to see, who all filed an eviction in the last week, how can I look at that information? And you can go through and literally look at the records and find instances of a person, an individual, like Jim Jones, evicting Ashley Phillips. And like it's two people. Because if it's an LLC or an apartment complex, you're never going to really do those deals. But if it's an individual filing an eviction against another individual, take a picture of that record or write it down or whatever you have to send carrier pigeon, go online. See, you can actually see if they have the files online. That's another option. But like some of my counties, I can literally go down there and just take pictures of the records that I want and then have my assistant load it up. We call it, send mail. That's my favorite kind of go-to if I'm just trying to pull records. Aside from that, I would say probate. That's kind of tougher. Driving for dollars, again, like that's one. I like lists that you can generate yourself. I like lists that you can procure yourself, that are directly from the source, directly, there's some form of motivation. So these are really my top three, right? Eviction, probate, driving for dollars. Probate is just can kind of be a little bit challenging early on because you don't necessarily know the process. You're dealing with people that may have lost, family members or something related to them. And so that can be challenging. Driving for dollars, of course, is one that I kind of skipped over because it kind of goes without saying we're here at the DealMachine webinar, but it's one of the ones that I think everybody should start with, not only because you're procuring your own leads, you're creating your own list, but you're also understanding your neighborhood. And from my perspective, unless you live in an area like San Francisco or New York or something like that, you should definitely start in your local market before you even consider trying to do deals in another market, because that can be very challenging as well. So learn your local market, drive for dollars, drive and understand the area, go down to the courthouse, pull evictions, probates. That right there, that little trifecta will get you deals, 100%. That's $1 million in deals if you're consistent, reaching out, making offers, and trying to do business the right way.
I love it. All right. So somebody else asks, explain how you send offers.
Yeah. So we like to send offers en masse. So we like to send offers the easiest way possible. So we'll do a direct, we'll do a DocuSign or PandaDoc, Adobe Sign. We'll do an electronic signature request. And it's our standard agreement. I have my virtual assistant send that out. So if you're, for instance, dialing in Mojo Dials, you can set a task for another team member, send out offer, and that person is just on a regular basis, updating the offers, sending them out via DocuSign. We have ours a little bit automated where you could just put in the information and it generates the offer for you. But ultimately, we like to send them via electronic signature request because you can do more of them quicker. And it's the people that don't have that, internet capability that will then still send a PDF hard copy. But my team, and this is not normal, I don't know how normal this is, but my acquisition managers are always gold at sending over 50 offers each and every week.
Okay.
At that rate, we can get 2 signed. Every 25 offers we send, it's usually a signed offer. The caveat to that is even once we send an offer, we have to continue to follow up. We usually try to send an offer in the first or second contact with that homeowner, but it's usually not until the 6th or 7th contact that they sign.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of, it's all in the follow-up. I know you guys have heard that 1,000,001 times. Your deals are in the database. It is so, so true. Every time we call them, we power dial our leads to follow up. We're just continuing to build rapport and take them through the sales cycle.
If you had to start all over again and you happen to have $300 a month, this is from Clifford Cornelio, how would you set up your business with it?
Good question. I would do those same things. I would be driving for dollars, and either leaving a note on the door or a note directly there. I would probably also go down to the courthouse and pull probate and eviction records and hand dial them. I actually take that back. I would spend the 180 on Mojo, like $180 on Mojo, just to power dial through me personally, because that's how I built my business, cold calling. I would still be calling using $1, but I would still pull those same records. I would go on appointments as little as possible. I would try to get really good on the phone and deliver offers via email, PDF directly to them, and just be very consistent every week. Have a schedule. I'm driving. I go down to the courthouse, pull the list, call, send offer, follow up, rinse, repeat every week.
Love it.
It will turn into deals, I promise.
Let's see. Sam Elliott says, can you explain your process? I love this question, for training your acquisition manager.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have something that I'll share as well, additionally, and also a suggestion for you, David, to get him on.
Oh, yeah, let's get him on. Hannah, can we get on Sam Elliott, please?
Well, I was talking about somebody different. So I was talking about Tag Thompson.
Let's bring him on anyway. Let's bring on Sam.
Yeah, let's bring him on for sure. The way that I've trained is really first spending some time with them. Hey, Sam.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, what's up, Sam? Yes, we can. Can you turn on your video?
Yeah.
There you are.
All right, I'm on my other screen here. Let me move you all over.
Cool.
Awesome. So Sam,
great question,
give me a little background on yourself. If you're thinking of hiring an acquisition manager, I'm thinking maybe you're ready to add your first, second, or third person.
Yeah. So right now it's just me and one part-time cold caller. Brandon, I'm in Atlanta as well, by the way. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like a chicken running around with my head cut off at the moment. So I looked at like 6 houses in the rain today, and I've been having a lot of success. But I guess my concern with an acquisition manager is, just the hiring process, the training process, and then there also seems to be a lot of different opinions when it comes to like belly-to-belly meetings, or like you said, you're a big fan of locking the deal up over the phone. So I was kind of curious as to when you actually see the house, and how often do you find yourself maybe making an offer and then you go see the house and it wasn't at all what the seller, I looked at some houses today, for example, when I got there, the seller was selling me and they were in way worse condition than when I showed up to the house. So kind of stuff like that, I guess, is what's on my mind.
What is a belly-to-belly meeting?
Going to an appointment.
Yeah.
What is it?
Physically going to an appointment and locking up a house on hard copy, contract with the seller. So, which is the most effective, but I'm sure Brandon can allude to the fact that it's, you're limited because you've got to get in your car and look at the house, and this time that you could be talking to other sellers. So.
Okay. Yeah. Understood. I'm curious.
100%.
Brandon has.
So, for sure. Great questions. I mean, so Tom Kroll is like, hey, you go, you're belly to belly, you do that all day, every day. I did that for 2 years. And we transitioned literally once we started having a lot of cold calling and a lot of follow-up, and we wanted to just continue to follow up with these leads. We made that transition late 2017, early 2018. I was a little skeptical. Tom Kroll personally has told me, go on appointments. It's not necessarily sustainable. I disagree. We've sustained how we are able to work with homeowners, get properties under contract over the phone, and leverage our time a lot better. It's a longer conversation. It's more touches. But just like I mentioned earlier, our prospectors, or whatever your marketing channel is, if it comes through a postcard, the acquisition call, which can be yourself or your AM, that in that first call, you're trying to take them through the process, warm up, build rapport, describe the benefits, sell the features, problem solve, make your offer, get closed, boomerang. You're trying to do everything in that very first call. However, even if you don't, in our business, I like to give them a feel for where our offer would be, so that they understand, hey, we're to the point, and then we send that offer immediately, because ultimately the offer is another marketing piece. If you submit offers, it doesn't end with you sending an offer that's too low that they don't like and game over. No, they're either going to respond or they're not, and you're going to follow up with them and try to continue the conversation. Okay, where do I need to be? So if you send more offers, you're actually giving yourself more opportunities up the bat. And literally, I asked my acquisition manager recently, how many times does it take until we actually get it under contract after you submitted that initial offer? And it's 7 to 9. So there's no, we would not be able to do that level of intense follow-up if we were going to the appointments in person.
Okay.
And then to your other question, you had a few questions in there. One of the other questions were how many times does the house not what it appeared to be? Well, if we're making offers based off of as is sold comps, and not trying to estimate ARV and estimate repair costs and back out of a number that way, we're making them based off of similar as is sold comps. That's how we base our offer. It doesn't really matter, because we're still we're basing our offer price off of as is sold comps. And sometimes, yes, the house can be completely horrible, and that still happens. But over time, on a 10 properties that went under contract, we still have a similar fallout rate. 2 to 4 maybe don't make it to the closing line. But that was the same as when we actually went on every appointment. So in our process, we literally will get it under contract, and we'll see the property after we got it under contract. We'll tell the seller, hey, we need to get in there 2 times, once for pictures, once for a walkthrough, after it's under contract. And then to your other question, how did I train? Early on, I spent a lot of time with my acquisition manager on the calls, reviewing his calls, answering his questions. I found somebody that was just a really hard worker. I found somebody that was a grinder. He just showed up every day. I could, talk to him. He took good notes. He learned from, our conversations. I pulled up the map, showed him the different areas, what works in what different areas. And then he knows now, if he has an issue, hey, what do you think about this? He'll give me address, a Zillow link, condition, and then notes on the property, and say, hey, what do you think? And I can just on my phone give them real-time feedback. And so over time, if you're just continuing to work with them, I don't really have to give them as much feedback anymore. But it was just spending that time with them. He was already a great communicator. He was a great team member. And he was focused on continuous learning and development. So just built with them over time, give them the experience. You're belly to belly with your AM very early on, but as you go, you can give them a little bit more leeway, and just ask them to give you any properties that they can't find a number for, and then give them that feedback. The last thing I'm adding here is letsgooffer.com. You should write that down. letsgooffer.com. Tag Thompson has developed a system of giving you the offer price. I think it's like $40 a month. If you put in the code INU, I Indigo Nancy Umbrella, it's like $10 off. But it's literally, I just did a demo with them today. Brent Daniels is also going to have an affiliate as well. He's a fellow tribe member, but it's, you put in an address, you set a condition. If you're in Atlanta, you would set it to aggressive, and it will give you the offer range that you should make your offer. And if you get it under contract within that range, the high in that range assumes that you're making 20K. It builds in a 20K margin.
Is that going off of the Zestimate? Where's it getting that number from?
It's going off of sold comps from Zillow.
Okay. So
which is exactly how I teach my team members. I teach them to look for a similar sold comp in the area that sold as is to a rehabber. So you could see if it was fully fixed up, look in the price history, you see what it sold to sold for a year ago. That's like probably your as is comp for a full flip. What it sold to a landlord, which is one that you'll see a sold comp that has now been rented or there's watermarks on Zillow. And then lastly, something that sold to an owner occupant. So it's sold with a description like, hey, come check out this home. And it's, hard paneling, hardwood floor, and, it looks lived in, it looks fully staged. If I can see it what they sold for, like that's what I could sell my deal for. So I just back out what I want to make. I take off 20K and that's my Mayo. Letsgooffer.com does that for you. I taught my guy to do that, and now I can look at these comps and then just back out what I think I'll offer. Let's Go Offer automates that process for you. Check it out. But that's how we make offers. I don't really I'll look at ARV and repair numbers just as a gut check. But honestly, I'm just looking for a similar as is comp, and I subtract how much I want to make, and that's my Mayo. That's my maximum allowable offer.
Do you agree with Tom Kroll as well on the ARV acronym, assumptions, reduce values, or are you behind? Yeah.
100%. He's right.
Okay.
I mean, because there's, you ask 3 people, 1 ARV, you're gonna get 5 answers.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then nobody's, especially in this business, when you're starting off, we're not contractors. We don't really know estimates. You can find as is comps, and don't let anybody tell you Zillow is inaccurate regarding their sold comps. Like they're a $9 billion company. Like their sold prices are, for the most part, there's a few errors in there. They're pulling directly from MLS. So that's right. The Zestimate is BS, but they'll tell you what's sold in the area. My acquisition manager, we did $1 million pulling list source leads, cold calling them, and sending offers based off of Zillow comps. Literally. And that's what letsgooffer.com is. It does that for you. So check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't want to hog the webinar, but thank you.
For sure. And come out to one of my next events, REI Live Atlanta. On the Polites will be here. Dedrick and Crystal Polite will be here March 19th at the Westin Perimeter North. I'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, I live in Midtown. I'm sure I'll see you sometime soon.
Yes, for sure.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Sam.
All right. Let's see here. We've got 57 questions waiting.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So Sean says, can I have a copy of the ad you post to hire drivers? At least responded with our ad. Let's see. Are you concerned with the downward spiral of people buying homes now due to the coronavirus that has been around? I love the coronavirus question.
Yeah, right. You got to slip that in today.
You got to. We have to address the coronavirus.
Right. I actually saw a really good article, which I reread it. It talked about there may be some effects, right? There may be some effects, especially for builders, people that are renovating houses, because remember, China manufactures a lot of the parts, a lot of the manufacturing materials that are necessary. But that's on that side. People still need places to live, and I'm not a doom and gloom type of guy. I'm sure that I'm confident that this will come and go, and at the end of the day, that's why I think Rockefeller said it, decades and decades ago, like when there's blood in the streets, buy real estate. Like, it's one of the safest things. And so even coronavirus aside, a market crash that would affect the real estate industry, if you have systems in place and you're not like onesie, twosie doing deals, but you're getting some real consistency and finding off-market properties, the smart money will still be wanting to buy those off-market properties, and probably for rentals. So maybe the big designer fix and flips may go, to the wayside for a little bit, or maybe be harder to sell some of those deals. But smart money is still going to be buying a bunch of rentals and a bunch of rental properties. And specifically speaking, us here in Atlanta, a lot of the deals that we do are outside of the main city. They're in the suburbs, and they're great rental homes. Like, I love buying properties from tired landlords and selling them to new landlords that want to be tired, 5-10 years. That's a bad joke, but there's still going to be a need for off-market inventory, especially rentals. And then, as we know, millennials, my generation, we're, a lot of folks in my generation, our generation, David, are going to be renters. Like, there's less home ownership for our generation, and so like there's going to be a need for more and more rentals. So I'm not worried at all. We have consistency in our business. We are still talking to people every day and generating off-market opportunities for other investors that want to buy and hold. And maybe the fix and flips will dwindle a little bit, but they'll be back too. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can guarantee it.
Aaron Bell says if they're in Atlanta and they get a deal under contract, specifically driving for dollars with DealMachine, would you be okay purchasing it? Or
100%.
Find a buyer?
100%. And what I do a lot of times, there were people that looked out for me very early on, that I found a deal and I would maybe, pay them, 30%, or if I made 10K on a deal, they'd only ask for like 2 or 3. I'm willing to do that with people, because I as someone that's always been direct to seller, I think I place an emphasis on finding the deal, finding the opportunity. Somebody helps me find a buyer or help me through the process. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily 50-50, cost share situation. And so I would love to help you find and close and complete deals, give you my closing attorney, buyers list, my VA put together.
Wow. You're going to give them your buyers list?
No. I said I would send the deal to my buyers list.
Oh, okay.
I am B Barnes, DM me. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Okay. Also, Aaron asked if they could be added to your buyers list.
For sure.
A website or something.
For sure. DM me. I think that's the easiest way to catch me. My email, like I literally get 50 plus a day.
Yeah.
My DMs are a little drier than that.
Yeah.
Slide in.
All right. This is a fun question. Lux Leonard says, gun to your head, make or break. Absolutely. You have to find a deal. What path are you taking?
I'm probably driving and knocking on a few doors.
That's the right answer. No, I'm just kidding.
It is. It is, because you don't have time to go down to the courthouse and pull a list and sort through them. I'm going to drive. I'm going to look for an area where it doesn't have to be a war zone. It has to be an area where there's some good looking houses and there's just a few that look a little older. They don't have to be completely vacant, bandos, run down. They're just not as up to date. And I'm going to knock on the door and I'm going to present myself as professionally as possible and let them know that I would love to purchase a home in an area and just wanted to see if they would accept an offer or consider selling their property.
All right.
Do that a few times. Good.
if you're new to an area, in order to pick areas to drive for dollars, how do you research the neighborhoods where you want to go?
Good question. Honestly, if you're new to the area, I have, every time I speak or present, I have three main themes. It's consistency, continuous learning and development. So whatever you're going to do, be consistent, continue to learn, develop, listen to podcasts as you're driving. And then the last one is networking and mentorship. So with that last piece, I would look on meetup.com, and I would go to a local meetup, or I would go on Facebook and search real estate group, and I would ask a question. Hey, leverage others, meet some people, leverage others, ask them some of the better places. So much information on the internet, Facebook groups, meetups. Start there, find out the best closing attorney, and then just start to do your own thing, and you'll get a feel for it yourself, and stay out the hood.
Awesome. What are you using as a dialer and as a CRM system? This is from Tony Idem.
Yeah, for the longest, of course, I started with Podio, Investor Fuse, all this stuff. But for the longest, we were in Mojo. I would highly suggest it. We're doing call tools right now, but it's a challenge. We took a hit transitioning from Mojo to call tools. I highly suggest and recommend you stay in Mojo as long as possible, and use Mojo as your CRM as well. And if you want to have a CRM for buyers, just use like MailChimp for that. You can store all your buyers in there and back it up to Excel spreadsheet. And then in Mojo, I would get CallRail as well to get the phone numbers to put into Mojo. But then in Mojo, when you have a lead, you group them as a lead, and then you set a follow-up for yourself, and you just dial your calendar. And because once it's under contract, you can group it as under contract. And so you can have that as a group, and you can attach things to it. So you can attach your purchase agreement directly to that file in Mojo. So Mojo is really all you need, or a similar dialer. You could use an email provider to store your buyers and then back it all up to Excel spreadsheets. I like CallRail for phone numbers. Those three things, like, it's less than $300 a month, that's for sure. With those three tools, it can get you going. And if you use a single line dialer, it'll be even cheaper, but even that's better than hand dialing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do that.
I like it.
Cool.
All right, let's see here. So Sam Elliott was asking another question. He said, when do you see a house, before or after you make the offer?
After. I see it after it actually goes under contract.
That's backwards from what most people do.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, that was not how I started. I was skeptical, but honestly, I'm in the volume business, and you can be too early on. Like, you don't have to have this super large team to do this. You just got to be confident in your offers and make enough of them and follow up on them. So where once it goes under contract, you go. If you are getting something under contract at a price that actually feasibly could work, it shouldn't be too far off versus reality, right? If you're a rookie and you don't know what the offer price to make, and you lock something up ridiculously high, and you go to the property, it's going to be in a worse condition and it never works and it'll fall out of contract. But if you leverage something like Let's Go Offer, or you just really focus in on finding an as-is comp and making offers that way, there really shouldn't be too much of a variation in your offer price versus what it could actually sell for if you're leveraging the as-is comps correctly. So with that, I mean, the houses, regardless if there's swings in condition, we're basing it off of other homes that are sold as is. So they're usually still within a range that we can make a deal work. And that's also, other quick point, that's also why you build in 20K of margin. I used to do 10K all day. That was a Tom Kroll thing. If I can get a deal for 10K, build in myself 10K margin, it's a deal. I had to spread that to 20K. And yes, you may get less under contract. But if you're consistent, you'll still do deals. But when you get a deal, it's solid. Because if there's a variation in condition of 10K, you still got a 10K deal.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to lock them up at 10K, a quick variation, you're out of, there's no deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other key. Build in yourself 20K margin and submit more offers.
Gotcha. All right, let's see. Huo Lu says, how much of this is applicable in Canada? I would say, unfortunately, we aren't in Canada, but I know there's a guy on Instagram. His name is Ben Humble CEO that you might check out and ask him, because he does a lot of wholesaling in Canada. Unless you have some knowledge about Canada.
I've heard of people that are doing deals there, but I can't speak to like how my methods would apply. So definitely reach out, Facebook groups as well, probably, and the contact David just mentioned.
Let's see here. How do you pay an acquisitions manager? That's from Christopher.
Great question. So here's the thing. A lot of people want to do commission only. That's a scary proposition. For a lot of people in this business, you really need about 90 days before you can start to expect anything. So my preference is for a small flat fee base, or a small base and a flat fee commission scale. So if I can offer starting out, if I were just starting out right now, I'd offer $1,000 or $1,500 a month, and then maybe $500 per deal close. Or you could do a smaller percentage if you want to do that. But I think it's just really important to consider giving a small base up front so that that person at least has a little bit of money to survive off of. Because honestly, in this business, it's going to take 60 to 90 days to really kind of get into a groove. Don't expect results that quickly. And I'm sure, I didn't expect results that quickly. I did my first deal. It closed in March, and I was lucky. My very first batch of 1,000 postcards landed me a deal. But that happened in month 3. So I was sweating for 2 months, right?
Yeah.
So when you're trying to hire somebody, like, give them a small flat fee, a small base. And then, I suggest a flat fee commission. So $500 per deal closed, because, biggest deal we did this year was 72 grand. And I gave 10% of that. That's like 3 months worth of base, right? So $500 per deal close. And then you can give them a spot bonus. That's my suggestion.
Mm-hmm. And what about other positions in your company? What is that pay structure like?
Cold callers, I started off the Brent model, $20 per hour. They've transitioned
no bonus,
to,
right? He doesn't pay
no bonus. I did for a while, but the thing is, their efforts aren't necessarily connected to the results.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually transitioned to a bonus for hitting the amount of hours dialed. And
I like that.
The time,
I like that.
Yeah.
It's way more in their control.
Exactly. Another quick tip is, for some reason, if you dial in at least 3 hours increments as a cold caller, your your contact rate goes up. If you like hop on the call and hop off, it's not, so we goal them at also having a certain amount of 3-hour dialing windows. I think calls made, because we didn't want them to spend the time on the phone and actually generating calls. But yes, $20 an hour to start. A virtual assistant. My first VA, just an administrative assistant, was like $4 or $4.50 an hour. And then a dispositions manager, I actually put him on a small salary, but I didn't have, I had dispositions way later in the game, so I was able to do that.
Okay.
And then he's also an agent. He lists some properties for us.
Yeah. Let's see. Patrick Brown says, did you land any deals from driving for dollars that made you money?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, what about, like, are they better deals, or, and I'm not trying not to be biased, obviously, but does it, do you compare your marketing methods? Maybe talk about that. Like, do you compare different marketing methods and what those like deal results are? Like, what are the KPIs you track?
Yeah. So, and I haven't looked at this in a little bit, and that's bad on me. The return on an investment for driving for dollars is very high relatively to some of the others. Our biggest, believe it or not, one of our largest deals was consistently on average was from list source leads, finding like the median sales price and pulling a list based off of that and cold calling it for absentee owned properties. But we spend a lot of money to get those big deals. Driving for dollars, the return on investment for that is astronomical. Probate as well, because there's only a small amount of people. Those are probably our two biggest kind of ROI, marketing out versus deals done. But some of our largest lists have just been honestly cold calling list source leads for absentee owners.
Okay. Let's see. Andrea wants to know, what markets are you buying in?
Atlanta, Charlotte, and I do some deals in the Quad Cities. It's like Illinois, Iowa.
Ooh, I've been to the Quad Cities.
Yeah, that was one of my last jobs. So I have a buddy up there. So I'll still do a few deals up there from time to time. Charlotte and Atlanta for right now. And all of Metro Atlanta, we do 30-mile radius. But I have buddies, wholesaling drive members throughout the nation. So if you have any other questions, give me a shout.
Okay, Dwayne Murray says, what's your monthly marketing budget?
Good question. All in all, we're probably only spending, with the smaller overhead right now, call it like $25K. And that's with the team members involved. We transitioned, we had a larger overhead. We had gotten up to like 40 grand per month.
Mm-hmm.
We actually scaled that back. We shifted and we pulled back the range. So we're right at like around 25, 30. But that's for all the team members, not including myself, taking any pay.
Okay. That's tough. I mean, you pay yourself now.
Right. But now I'm doing more of a quarterly draw.
Really?
Instead of like a monthly salary.
Really? That's fascinating. Brent Daniels is the opposite.
Yeah, no, he like sucks the business dry.
Yeah. Says it keeps him hungry.
And that's smart. I'm actually going to go out to Phoenix here soon and learn a little bit more about how he does things.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, let's see. What is a new question we haven't had yet? Can't believe it's almost the top of the hour, man.
I know, right? This has been great.
What are some of your favorite podcasts? It's from KJ Jackson.
Yeah, I saw that. I was actually about to mention. Honestly, one of the first podcasts that I was listening to on a regular basis was Joe Fairless's Best Ever Real Estate Show. He's in and out. He's really quick. I've just heard this new podcast that David Lecko is doing. I'm super excited about that. Didn't you just shoot two recent podcasts?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I've been on the Joe Fairless show before, and then I did 2 recordings I was a guest on other podcasts.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Joe Fairless's podcast is probably my go-to. Wholesaling Inc., of course, I listen to that. Those are my 2 favorite, I guess, real estate investing podcasts officially.
Cool.
Yeah.
And JS says, when you door knock or driving for dollars, are you targeting a certain type of owner, or are you just finding any house that looks like it needs some work?
Any house that looks like it needs some work. So it could be vacant, boarded up, burned down, of course. But it's any house that, ashy roof, cars in the driveway, high grass, just is not as It does not look as taken care of as the other houses on the street. So it's not always about the vacant houses. It's just a house that sticks out. It's not as in good of shape as the other houses.
Okay.
It's about volume, right? So as many as you can get.
Okay, KW says, I landed a deal on Driving for Dollars and then found a buyer and made $40K. Awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. KW said he uses the app to find buyers. I'm curious how KW does that.
Me too.
Oh, he says, or she says, just called them when I looked up their LLC from DealMachine. Woo! That's awesome.
Very cool. Love it.
Brandon, what does your offer look like? Is it 17 pages like the standard MLS one, or is it like 3 pages?
2 pages.
2 pages. Really?
Yes. It's like literally 1.5. The bottom half of page 2 is just for signature lines.
Fantastic.
It's a beefed up version of the original Tom Kroll offer.
Okay, cool. I've never seen
anybody
the Tom
wants.
Kroll offer.
Yeah, DM me if you guys want to copy a sample example.
Cool. All right, let's see. Wade, I know we're about at 8 o'clock, so I'm going to sneak in a few more questions. We're almost at the bottom of the list, though, too. So Wade Haldy says, I'm going to hire an assistant who will only be working 3 hours a day to start. It will mostly be from home, but she will be a great worker. I have several systems and Podio, but he's a bit primitive. He needs lists organized. She needs her pulling lists and calling. What CRM do you recommend, and how should you get started?
Yeah, I did use Podio and InvestorFuse, but I'm going to say something that Todd Tilbach would say, like, worry less about the CRM, honestly. Take it super old school if you have to, if you can. If you're cold calling, like I said, Mojo is a CRM enough. The leads are already there. You just got to group them and set follow-ups and attach whatever you need. If you're sending outgoing, marketing and, you're receiving incoming calls, it is good to have a system like a call rail that can track them. And then I would use Podio. But I myself, and this is speaking from experience, I bought InvestorFuse. There's a bunch of other ones out there as well, but I did not want to learn how to build it out myself. Once we started this method of just cold calling, we honestly stopped worrying about Podio. Like, that would keep some records, but I actually would only look in Podio once the deals are under contract. Once it's under contract, we would create a new record, and then we would follow it through the process. But the quicker you can get out of the CRM and get speaking to people, talking to people, TTP, the better off you'll be, guaranteed.
All right, Keelan says, how long should we drive for dollars? I think let's go. As a funny
just
question.
Be consistent.
Yeah.
Just be consistent. So I honestly used to do like 2, 3 hour shifts, and I would get anywhere from 70 to like 120. No, I would say about 70, 80 on average. But I think that depends on your area per hour. So it's like, how hungry are you? How much do you want to do? But if you're doing it all over again, if I just wanted, I would do it even sporadically, but sporadically consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to a property, drive it every time. Every time I go to a property, I'm driving it. Every time I'm coming home, I'm looking for properties. If you're just consistently building that into your day-to-day, week-to-week, that adds up. And then maybe you go driving on Sundays before or after church or something, or one day specifically if you're kind of balancing a job. And
awesome.
Keelan's actually one of my coaching students. So
thanks
for the great question, Keelan.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Okay, it looks like Keelan says, yes, sir, INU team.
Yes, INU for the Investor in You coaching program. If anybody's interested, shoot me a DM.
Great. I saw Elise
Like
dropped your Instagram. It's I am B Barnes. So check him out on
yes,
Instagram there.
for
Thank you,
sure.
Brandon. Any final thoughts? Pieces of advice?
Yeah, I'll
Places
go
people can
back
go?
for sure. I'll go back to what I said: consistency, continuous learning and development, networking, and mentorship are the three themes for my success. Whatever you do, be consistent. You have to. You play the long game. There were plenty of times that I felt like, man, I don't know when this next check is going to come, when this next closing is going to happen. But I just was continuing to believe that it would work, had faith. But I knew if I put in the time, it would work out. I would get better with time and experience. Continue to listen to podcasts as you're driving for dollars. There's some great podcasts out there. I found out about probate letters from Rick Ginn, driving for dollars, listening to podcasts. And then also network, come out of the shadows. Don't spend time at your house every day, all day. Get out and go to some events. Every time I was either invited or was saying I was gonna go, I would like get anxious and like, there's no point in going. Why do I need to go and get all dressed up? But every time I went to an event, I met somebody that literally like changed the trajectory of what I was doing, or I was amazed by who I met at a local meetup. So go to a local meetup and continue to network. And then when you're ready, get a mentor, get around people that are, where you want to be. It'll just raise your tide, honestly. And if you're in Atlanta, REILiveATL.com. It's on my Instagram as well. We have a meetup. We're going to get David out here soon. This month we have
Love that.
Crystal and Dedrick Polite that are coming to speak. We've had Tom, Brant, everybody else. And that's what I'm all about. Like I'm about this kind of fell into my lap, and it's kind of brought me out of the shadows. I'm glad it's changed the trajectory of my life, my business, my family. And I'm just enjoying giving back, sharing with you guys, coaching some coaching students, and continuing to be consistent, learning myself and developing and networking and mentoring others. So that's what it's all about.
Appreciate that so much. Thanks, Brandon.
Yes, for sure. Thank you guys. It's been great.
You're welcome. All right, guys. If you're just wanting to watch a recording of this, we'll send it out. We usually send it out tomorrow, but Ty, our media specialist, has been sick. He has to get his wisdom teeth pulled out tomorrow. So it's probably going to be delayed a little bit, but go to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/DealMachine. Subscribe there and you'll get that whenever it's available.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brandon.
Great, guys. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
All right now.